combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Instagram Live. And we're here with another episode of Jimmy Rants. If you're brand new to the show, head on over to JimmyRants.com. You'll see that we start off on Instagram. I do a live video a couple of times a day over on Instagram. So if you're not following me there, go follow me at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN over on Instagram. And you can engage live like all these awesome people are coming in right now. Then you can watch the replay for up to 24 hours on Instagram. But if you miss it and it disappears from Instagram, or you don't like to hang out on Instagram, that's okay. You can watch all the past episodes on YouTube where we post these Jimmy Rants episodes. Just type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants, and you will find the past episodes on YouTube. And then finally, if you like to listen to content, you can listen over on Apple Podcast at the Jimmy Rants Podcast. Again, you guys, all of this is at JimmyRants.com. Today's Jimmy Rants is all about another article. We're getting all these articles coming out all about the ketogenic diet. And we have everybody and their mama wanting to chime in about what they think about the ketogenic diet and how you can do it, the dangers of it, on and on and on. We're going to hear all sorts of stories, you guys. 2019 ain't going to slow down all of the talk about keto. It's just going to get at a more fevered pitch than it was in 2018. So you got to know that right now, okay? So this new article today on the long-term risks of the keto weight loss diet. And I want to read this and respond to it in real time as I'm reading it. But this Jimmy Rants is all about not getting sucked in by the so-called long-term risks of keto argument. Because they're going to try to make claims about keto that simply are not true. All right, so let's read this article, shall we? The keto weight loss diet that is having a surge of popularity may actually be shortening people's lives. No. Show me the evidence for that. Are we seeing bodies lying in the street of people that have gone keto and suddenly aren't with us anymore because it's, quote, shortened their lives? How do they get away with saying that kind of stuff, number one? I don't get that. But let's get to it. It's a Q&A, which, by the way, the answerer, not the other A. The A is, well, I thought they had it here. I don't have the list of the A, but it was published in the New Zealand Listener, okay? So the question says, people I know have lost a lot of weight on the keto diet, and they claim to feel amazing. I worry about the long-term health effects of such a drastic diet, so I haven't tried it. What's your opinion? I take your point that we'd be better off if we didn't think thinner was better. All right, let me kind of analyze this question. People I know have lost a lot of weight on the keto diet and claim to feel amazing. Okay, great. You have friends and or family members or coworkers that have done keto, and now you're keto curious. That's great. Why are you worried about the long-term health effects? What would be planted in your head that would make you think there would be long-term health effects of going keto? Other than maybe what you've heard as propaganda, but I don't understand why just out of the blue you would think that there would be long-term health effects. The long-term health effects are blood sugar control, inflammation control, blood pressure control, insulin control. You get the gist here? The only long-term health effects are positive ones, not negative ones. That's it. Of such a drastic diet. Drastic. what is drastic about eating real food? Can anybody answer that for me? I've never understood when they try to paint the picture of keto and they use words like a drastic diet, draconian diet. It's just eliminating a whole food group. I don't understand what's drastic about embracing real whole foods. Healthy meats and vegetables and fats that God made. I don't understand that. So, the answerer is obviously not a big fan of keto, because the answer says you're right to worry. The ketogenic diet has been dominating water cooler talk in workplaces this year, and yet studies of such low carbohydrate diets are sounding alarm bells. No randomized controlled clinical trials are sounding alarm bells. What the bleep are they talking about? There is no warning bells from good quality research that shows that a low carbohydrate, high fat approach, ketogenic approach, is any way harmful to anyone's health. But let's see what they have to say. Attendees at the European Society of Cardiology Congress in August, for instance, heard that very low carb diets may in fact be killing us. All right, we talked about that study, and it was a bogus study. It wasn't even a low carb study. It was 40% carbohydrate. In nobody's definition of, quote, low carb is 40% carbohydrate a ketogenic diet, which is what this question is asking about. And so they quote this study from this European Society of Cardiology Congress, and yet it's not actually a ketogenic study. So how do you cite that? And that it's killing us. Despite the recent hype, people have been eating ketogenic diets for nearly 100 years, although not to lose weight. Rather, it's been used to treat drug-resistant epilepsy, especially in children. Well, yes, it started off in the 1920s as a way for kids who had drug-resistant epilepsy and had massive seizures. It gave them an opportunity to control their seizures through a diet. Does that mean that's the only application of the ketogenic diet? The fact that it started off as a therapeutic use for children with epilepsy? Does that mean we can't learn from what that taught us about human metabolism? That if it controls seizures in children with epilepsy, what else can it do? So they pretend like we're not allowed to ever look into any other therapeutic uses for a ketogenic diet. It's silly. The basis of the keto diet for weight loss is that when our body doesn't get enough carbs, it starts to burn fat for fuel. This process is known as ketosis. The production of ketones is the end result, and a keto diet deliberately induces ketosis. That's right, it does. We can thank Dr. Atkins, Robert Atkins, for introducing this very low-carb diet to the masses trying to lose weight. The Atkins diet fad, as they call it, of the early 2000s involved a strict introductory 2-week ketogenic phase before it switched over to a low-carb regimen. In keto diet land, some followers restrict their carbohydrate intake to 15 to 30 grams a day. That's right. I'm right around 25 to 30-ish grams a day. Others allow themselves up to 50. I think it's generally recognized that if you go below 50 grams of carbohydrate intake, and that's total carbohydrate intake, then that is the starting point for getting into ketosis, is 50 grams or less. To put that in perspective, and this always trips me up when they start doing this kind of stuff. To put in perspective, a medium-sized banana has 23 grams of carbs. So that would be your daily allowance if you do a strict keto diet. The rest of the diet consists of mostly meat, fish, eggs, cheese, butter, oil, cream, green leafy vegetables, and nuts, grain products including breads, pasta, flour, and rice, legumes like beans, potatoes, and other starchy vegetables, and many fruits are completely off the menu. Well, not necessarily. Some people are able to tolerate in their carb tolerance some of those foods, but you don't need bread or pasta or flour or rice or beans. You might be able to get away with a sweet potato depending on your metabolism. You might be able to have some fruits, but mostly like berries. But who says all of those things are necessary in the human diet? So if you're just joining us, I am reading one of these stories about the long-term implications of a keto diet. And so this person's not a fan of the keto diet. There's no question the keto diet can result in short-term weight loss. And I also have trouble that in this article, they're only focusing on the weight loss effects of keto. Lots of people have done very well at losing weight on keto, so don't get me wrong. But to me, the major benefit of keto is the way it heals the body and the metabolism on the inside, the way it contributes towards healing the insulin resistance that has plagued so many people, giving them more weight and more health problems. So that is the benefit of keto, and yet they're putting a lot of the onus on weight loss, which is what they always do. Few people manage to stick to it because of the limited food available. Limited food? Are they kidding me? Basically, any meat is on the menu. Basically, any green leafy vegetable, which there's a bunch of them, is on the menu. Basically, all the real food-based fats, coconut oil, butter, lard, ghee, you name it, is on the menu. So I don't understand what they're talking about, limited food choices. It doesn't make sense. Side effects such as constipation, headaches, bad breath, and more. Come on, really? Is that the best you got? Side effects like constipation. Have you heard of drinking more water and eating more fibrous vegetables? You don't get constipated when you do that. Headaches. Headaches is a sign that you're dehydrated. Headaches could be an electrolyte imbalance. You need to have more salt in your diet, which people like this would probably say, well, you need to cut your salt. But if you add in more salt, the headaches go away. Bad breath. If you're worried about that, pop a friggin' mint, right? Come on. Research suggests that 60% of keto dieters, they don't mention what the research is. They just say research suggests. So let me pull this fake research paper out of the air and say 60% of keto dieters have persistent long-term constipation. I remember I interviewed on the Livin' La Vida Low Carb show several years ago now, a very famous vegan diet doctor, Dr. John McDougall. And he's all about people just eating starch and starchy-based foods, so potatoes, that kind of thing. And I remember he was very smug. If you ever listened to that one, he was very smug and he said, Mr. Moore, how's your constipation? And I said, I don't have constipation. Oh, well, every keto dieter I know has constipation, so therefore you must have constipation. And I'm like, I drink plenty of water and eat plenty of green leafy vegetables for the fiber that I don't have constipation. So this is just, it's so stupid, it's not even funny. Aside from discomfort and fatigue, constipation increases hemorrhoids and reduces disease immunity. Well, don't get constipation then. Drink more water, eat more green leafy vegetables. Bada bing, bada boom. It's also worrying in the context, remember this is from New Zealand, of New Zealand's woeful colorectal cancer statistics. So then they talk about when you eat whole grains and dietary fiber, it helps to decrease the risk of colorectal cancer. Do you think that whole grains is the only source of fiber? Can you not get fiber from green leafy vegetables? And yet they don't mention that in this article at all. And that red and processed meat consumption has the opposite effect. The keto diet will get a fail on both accounts. Well, lumping together red meat and processed meat into the same category is very, very stupid. It's like lumping together filtered water and toilet water. They're both water, yes, but you would drink one and you wouldn't get close to putting the other one in your mouth, right? So it's silly for them to make this association. And again, all the research that's been done looking at red meat and, quote, processed meat in the same category. It's all associational studies. They haven't done a randomized controlled clinical trial looking at this. What's more, the research presented 3 months ago at the Munich meeting of cardiologists found that nearly 25,000 Americans, which followed 25,000 Americans for a decade, found people who follow low carb have a greater risk of premature death. Again, bad science. Bad science. All it was an observational study, not one where they actually looked at people and did a randomized controlled clinical trial in a clinical setting, controlling all the variables. All they did was look at previous studies that had been done. Again, previous observational studies. So it was an observational of an observational of an observational. And by the time they make conclusions, they could conclude whatever the bleep they wanted to. That's not science. And yet, now it ends up in an article like this, being quoted as the gospel truth. Study participants who had the lowest carb intake compared with those whose diet were the highest in carbs had a 32% greater risk of all-cause mortality over a 6-year follow-up. The risk of death from coronary heart disease and other diseases and cancers increased as well. Other research involving 450,000 people over 15 years found increases. All of this article, every single bit of it, is not one single randomized controlled clinical trial. None. And that is the only one that is relevant to human health. Okay? So when you read this kind of stuff, and they're not citing any of the statistics that they're using here, they're not giving any sources of the information. All they're doing is just outright putting it in there. And yet these are the kind of articles that your friends and family are going to be reading. You're going to probably hear things like this on television news programs. Okay? And they're going to read it in magazines. Go, oh, well, Reader's Digest said blah, 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 blah. And it makes it very difficult. So don't get sucked in by all this nonsense about the long-term risks of keto. Let's see. One last thing on the latter study. Our research highlights an unfavorable association between low-carb diets and total and cause-specific death based on individual data and pooled results of previous studies. Again, pooled results of previous studies. That means they put together a bunch of studies that were bogus themselves and then tried to make a conclusion from it. And the findings suggest that the low-carb diet is both unsafe and should not be recommended. That's what I think about that stupid article. It's the most ridiculous, as my friends in Britain would say, rubbish that I've ever seen in my entire life. And yet this is what passes for journalism these days. This is what passes for what people are actually reading about keto. And I need you guys to join me on this. Join me in this journey to educate people that what they read about isn't necessarily true. And this is our opportunity to use articles like that to point out the fallacies in them, to give people the good information as it relates to keto. All right, you got me fired up today here on Jimmy Rants, but I want to see what you guys have to say. Welcome in, welcome in. Hello, hello, thanks for being here. Hey, Courtney, thanks for being here. Hello, Lindy. Hello, Steph. Hello, Bonnie Lene. Lies like the scale. Yeah, Bonnie watched my Jimmy Rants earlier. The scale is a lying liar that lies. Exactly. Hey, Jen. Courtney says, if my life is going to be shortened, at least I will go out feeling the best and looking better than I've ever felt before. And that's the thing. They don't want to acknowledge that people are feeling better. They don't want to acknowledge that people's health markers all get better. They only want to focus on the weight. And they only want to focus on the facade of long-term risks associated with this way of eating. That's all they talk about. And so how can you have people feeling better, getting better health markers, and having every measurable part of their life going better in their diet, and yet have long-term health implications? I got a question for Keto Talk, which, by the way, we're coming back on Keto Talk, not this coming up Thursday, but the next Thursday, January, whatever that is, 10th, whatever that Thursday is. We'll be coming back with Keto Talk. And one of the questions was from a lady who said, all my health markers have been amazing. I feel awesome. I have energy. I'm down in weight. All of these good things are happening for me, but my LDL cholesterol's gone up and my doctor's about to have a conniption fit about it. And so we're going to address that. So listen to that on Keto Talk. But it just goes to show you have all these good things happening in your health, and yet they want to scare you based on one preconceived notion, in this case with the LDL being somehow bad, or in the case of the ripped up article, they think that the long-term implications of keto don't make it worth going keto now. See, they're scared, guys. They're scared because if people really go keto and experience what it's like and all the benefits that come with it, there are a lot of interests that stand to lose a lot of money in the food industry, in the pharmaceutical industry, in the medical industry. Let's just be blunt about it. They make a lot of money off of procedures. They make a lot of money off of selling you a drug that will cover the effects of the carbs you're eating. They make a lot of money selling you very, very inexpensive, cheapo, food-like disease agents that they call food that's filled with crappy garbage. They make a lot of money. If we break that system, all you know what's going to break loose, because a lot of people would stand to lose a lot of money. And here's the thing. People are like, well, we don't want to mess with the economics of the situation. Yeah, we do. We so want to mess up the monopoly that has been the food, pharmaceutical, and medical industries. That is my goal. I want to make it an upheaval and just totally turn it upside down. Because here's the thing. All those people in those industries can find work in industries that are similar, but without having to do disease care. The food industry, we need those people to maybe help manage the real whole foods that need to be grown, and the cows that need to be grass-fed, and all of the things that would go into changing the food industry. The pharmaceutical industry, they could put their efforts into making better quality supplements for people. And then the medical industry, they need to get with the program and realize people aren't buying what they're selling anymore, and they need to be able to teach patients all about how to live better lifestyles as a preventative measure, rather than peddling drugs and procedures that, yes, it makes them money, but it's not making people any healthier. Hello there from Missouri, Bishop. Thanks for being here. Bonnie Lene says, if it was so bad, there wouldn't be hospitals in the U.S. like Boston for children with epilepsy on keto. And they're looking into keto for epilepsy, even still to this day. The lead researcher there at Boston College is Dr. Eric Kossoff. I've known him for many years, interviewed him a few times on the Live and La Vida Low Carb show. And yeah, I mean, they're looking at this, and of course they're reporting all the things that happen to these children, and some of the studies that get reported of these very sick children, they'll report some of the side effects that the children have. And I'm like, okay, but you can't extrapolate that's what's going to happen to a relatively healthy person without epilepsy, and yet sometimes they do. One of the things I love about keto is that I don't feel limited, says Courtney. Exactly, Courtney. And I don't understand this whole, it's so restrictive, I don't know what I could eat. What's restrictive to me is a vegan diet. What's restrictive to me is a low-fat diet. What's never, ever, 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 did I mention ever, been restrictive to me is a ketogenic diet. because the foods you get to eat are so luxurious and so delicious, and you really don't have to eat a lot of them to get satisfied. It's the most freeing diet in the world, and to me, that would make it the least restrictive. Steph says, I love this rant. I say bring on the keto death because I'll put something to those haters. I'll put live those haters. I think you meant I outlive those haters. Maybe that's what you meant. Yeah, we will. We will. My menu now is amazing compared to before keto. Exactly, Steph. And I poop daily without fail. TMI alert. TMI alert. Keto 995 says, I suffered from migraines all my adult life, and now I really don't have headaches with keto. Excellent. Excellent. See, these are the kinds of things that they talk about, the long-term risks of keto, and yet you're seeing healing happen. How can they even make claims that there's long-term risks? Why don't they have a story about McDonald's, Burger King, and Dunkin' Donuts? Bonnie Lene, thank you. If we want to get to the heart of what's truly a long-term risk, it's the standard American diet. Let's don't mince words here, guys. That is the long-term health risk of eating the standard American diet. I would rather people eat a vegan diet before the standard American diet. I would rather people eat just real whole foods instead of all that processed junk that's put out there as food that's not food at all. To me, that's been the biggest travesty, but nobody wants to call them out in the mainstream because there's too much money involved. Advertisers, they don't want to upset the advertisers. No constipation here either, even when I went carnivore for a bit, says L. Andrew. Yeah. It just doesn't happen. I don't understand that argument. And you like my toilet water analogy, huh? R. Wimple says, never been better. No more constipation ever since I began keto. See? There you go. Tell them I don't take medical advice from Reader's Digest. But unfortunately, Reader's Digest is something that people read. And apparently, whatever rubbish this was from New Zealand, they read that as well. Hashtag Team Jimmy. Thank you, Steph. The only thing that article is good for is fiber, and not even good for that. Yeah, it tasted pretty nasty. Maybe I could wipe my butt with it. Did I just say that out loud? I think I did. So, good rant, says Bonnie Lene. Thank you. A-Rod2773. Every time my friends say keto isn't healthy, I just pull up my shirt and show them my six-pack. Well, that's one way to do it. Fado says it's a sign of the times. Evil is seen as good, and good is seen as evil. The proof is in the pudding. Thank you for giving us the truth. You're very welcome. Thanks for being here. Yes, yes, yes. It's a medical community that wants to keep us sick. Debbie, I hate to be jaded like that, but I think you're right. I think you're right. My heart was sickened to see a documentary or a document from 6 kids in a hospital in Halifax, Canada, promoting canola oil. Yeah. Don't get me started on canola oil. I need to do a whole Jimmy Rants all about canola oil because people think that hung the moon. And I've got some interesting statistics to tell you about canola oil. I think it's an experience thing. If you've never felt what it feels like to be in ketosis, then you don't fully understand that your normal isn't actually feeling as good as you could. Great point, the mindful mirror, and that's true. I think one of the shocking things people have when they go keto and they think they're doing it to lose weight, the first thing they feel is pain that they dealt with for years suddenly goes away. And maybe they've had mental fog and not been able to speak clearly and think and remember things like they used to. And suddenly their brain's on fire in a good way, that they remember everything. To me, those are the hidden gems of being on keto that nobody in the mainstream is acknowledging. They want to focus in on the weight loss aspect, and it's all well and good people lose weight, but all those other benefits is why most of us are doing keto. It's the easiest and best way to eat. I agree, R. Wimple. Amy says, how can eating real whole food be bad long term? Is Special K and low-fat yogurt full of sugar supposed to be healthy long term? If you ask a lot of these guys, and the person that wrote this article that I ripped up, which it's still falling little pieces, they would probably say yes, that Special K, oh, that's healthy whole grains and low-fat milk and low-fat yogurt. Oh, that's very healthy for you. It's such a weird twilight zone we live in right now, where it seems like the world is mad and we're the only ones that are sane. And you're trying to explain it to people that think you're a two-eyed or a three-eyed monster. A two-eyed monster, yes. I'm a two-eyed monster. Three-eyed monster explaining something that's so out of this world they can't grasp it. It's one of the challenges of keto, you guys, is trying to explain it in such a way that people don't think you're wackadoodle, okay? I'm currently writing on the manuscript to my next book called Keto Clarity Cookbook. It'll be a cookbook companion to my original book, Keto Clarity. And so I'm writing the front matter and trying to explain the various concepts that are the basis of what a ketogenic diet is. And I'm trying to talk to people, just like I talk to you guys here, on such a basic level so that they understand it and it doesn't seem so weird. Because that question in that article I read for this Jimmy Rants was all about, oh, well, we know it's an extreme, drastic diet with long-term health implications. And we got to break people of that. They got to know this is a healthy way to eat. Bishop says we are upsetting their comfort zone. Yeah. And we should, because the comfort zone is making them sick. The comfort zone is keeping them eating crappy garbage that is making their health go downhill faster than you can say achoo. Okay? So the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants is don't allow articles like that one to suck you in by claiming that there are long-term health implications and risks associated with going keto. There simply are not. Joette said, I was just talking to Dory last night about this same subject. My mom is the one that tells me I can't eat like this forever. I'm going on 2 years like this now. And what's funny is you've been doing it for 2 years, Joette, and you've seen great success in your health and probably in your weight. What makes you think it's going to just stop working? What is supposed to happen? And if you're supposed to get sick from it, when? When is it supposed to happen? When all your health markers that are relevant are getting better, when exactly does your health start to decline? When? And if inflammation is lower and you can't have disease without inflammation, how exactly is there a long-term health risk implication of going keto? The answer is there ain't one, right? As you get closer to God, the devil doubles down, so it goes with the truth of keto. L. Andrew, there are people that are very fearful of keto right now. And they'll try to label us as cult. They'll try to label us as extremists. And they have. They've done all of that stuff. And behind the scenes, you should see some of the stuff that I get in my email from people that are they're just the ugliest of the ugly because they don't like what we're sharing about keto. All right, guys, I'm all fired up today. This is what Jimmy Rants was supposed to be about, was letting me come on here and rant. So thank you for letting me do that here today. I'm going to go ahead and end this Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, you guys, and it starts off on Instagram. So I do an Instagram live a couple of times a day. Go follow me at Livin' Low Carb Man. That's LIVIN LOWCARBMAN. And then you can watch it live, just like all these amazing people here did today. Steph says it, best rant ever. We'll keep them up. You can watch the replay for up to 24 hours on Instagram. Then we pop it over onto YouTube, where if you type in Jimmy Rants, you will find all the past episodes of this here show. I want to say we're right around 130 episodes now, so go get caught up if you've missed any of the past ones. Then we also have a Jimmy Rants podcast available on Apple Podcasts. Just go look up Jimmy Moore, look up Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. And if you could leave us a review, that would really help us out. Thank you so much. JimmyRants.com is the website. So until next time, we'll see you then.